Welcome to this episode of Medicare Industry Insider, where Rachel makes fun of how I name these episodes, and we go through it as if nothing else has happened. This week, we're going to talk about how to win referrals and influence networking partners. And yes, it is a reference to the wonderful book by Carnegie, but referrals are, I would argue, most agents' favorite way to gain business, if not one that they lean on a little too heavily sometimes. But with compliance regulations, with the changes to marketing, with everything going on in the world, and just the ease of which you can gain referrals when you have a good system, setting up systems to track, to identify, to mine your information, to identify people who may want to give you referrals, and make it easy for them to do so is more important than ever. So we're going to go through a lot of information about referrals, how to generate those referrals, grassroots ideas on how to make sure you are the person that people want to talk to in your local community when it comes to Medicare and the other lines of business you work with.
And I think referrals are one of those things, like you said, sometimes people rely on it a little bit too much, but referrals are going to go for the long game. When you're looking at referrals, you are not looking for something that'll start happening immediately. You're looking for something that will start generating a consistent revenue flow. So when you start growing and you get to this point where you need to add additional people, additional systems and processes, that referrals are built into that baseline. And like he said, a lot of people are not tracking it. They're not marketing towards it. So when you're thinking referrals, always think of yourself, what am I doing to make myself referable? So we'll start off with, what is referrals? Why referrals?
Yeah.
Referrals are probably the most cost-effective marketing campaign you can do.
Can be. I think that's one of the biggest misconceptions, because a lot of agents will look at a referral and say, it's free. I didn't spend anything on that. But as we well know, referrals cost you time. It's the things you spend time on that make you referable. And you've got to make sure that it is possible to over deliver and underperform. And sometimes the things that make us referable can also make us inefficient. So we have to strike that balance. Otherwise, your cost of acquisition on a referral client can actually be really, really high, especially if the only clients you're getting referred to are really high need individuals, people who take a lot more time. So really working your process to make sure that everyone is comfortable referring business to you is a critical part of this process.
Agree 100%. I think referrals, it's one of those things that it's not something you can just throw money at and ignore. It is something that does take time, and it is always a relationship, which always takes time.
Absolutely.
So whether you've got a referral partner that is just a single person who is referring a lot of people to you because they just know everyone in the community, or you're working with a larger network referral, meaning someone like an HR person in a large organization, or a financial planner, or another insurance agent like PNC, those people still need to have your love and your time. So if you are not taking time and you're getting referrals from those people to actually give them thanks and spend time with them, that referral stream may disappear. So That's where Jalen said it takes time. It's not necessarily free. Giving that person a little love and attention, occasionally throwing maybe a gift basket, having lunch with them just to catch up, that does take a little bit of time, and it does take a little bit of money, but it will pay off tremendously if you can invest in that. The other thing that we run into with referrals, the why referrals, is you're going to get stickier clients with referrals. That's kind of how people decide whether or not they want to work with people in this day and age. I actually have a trash can in my garage where once I get a piece of mail, if it is junk, it goes in the trash can. It does not even come into my house. So I don't know if everyone's like that, but mail leads have not paid off as well as they have in the past. Cold calling can get a little sticky in terms of compliant issues depending on the product line and what you're contracted with. Door knocking is also one of those things that is, not
much off the table.
Yeah. So there's less options in terms of like historical ways to get people. So I think in terms of referrals, it's a place that you're safe, compliant wise, you're safe. And you're getting people who already have worked with you and trust you and love you. And when they refer someone, that other person that trusts and loves that person now automatically loves and trusts you because they love and trust the other person. So stickiness is important.
There's a level of intentionality too, where if you've got a client that you have worked with that understands your process, understands your level of service, when they refer someone to you because they know more about that person's situation than you do, there's a higher level of intentionality for those clients too. You're going to get less tire kickers. You're going to get less folks that just want a bunch of information but aren't in a place to do anything. You're going to get folks that are more intentional about the activity that they're doing and that they are more likely to be ready to make a decision in a shorter time frame, shortening that sales process, reducing those costs, reducing that amount of time. And then the biggest thing is, as you continue to do that, as you build referrals, one of the best things about that is that a lot of your clients know each other, like Rachel said, and it builds a community of clients that helps with retention, that helps with brand recognition, but not without any danger, because rumors spread like wildfire. So if one person has a bad experience for whatever reason, and you have that community of clients that a lot of them know each other, make no mistake, that word will get out very quickly. So while referrals are some of the highest value, lowest cost leads and clients you can get, it does also take a high, consistent level of service to maintain that book of business. One of the big things I talk about is if someone refers a new client to you that is a current client, that new person cannot have a better experience than the person who referred them to you, and they can't have a worse experience. Because if Sally refers John to you, John has a way better experience than Sally did. Sally's going to wonder, well, why doesn't my agent do that for me? And then, of course, if John has a much worse experience than Sally, you've potentially ruined that friendship, and it'll be the last time Sally ever sends anyone your way. So it's a balancing act.
I was going to say, I think it goes back to building trust
Absolutely.
and keeping promises.
Yep.
And those are the two things I think referrals require. But hopefully we went over the why referral, that like it's important. It's going to be a staple of your business. Time versus money is going to be important, but I would say referrals are going to be a foundation of any agent's business. So we're going to jump then into becoming a community staple. That is very, very important if you would like more referrals. Your brand awareness, and everyone has a brand, even if you didn't realize it, everyone has a brand. Your brand awareness in your community is incredibly important, and it may be underlying, or like I said, you may not even realize it. One of the easiest places to look for your brand recognition is just Google search yourself. What does Google say about you? Have you volunteered? Are you involved in the chamber? What other extracurricular activities do you do? Do you have a website? Is it pulling up on the first page when you Google it? What does your website say? Can people find what they need to find? There's so many little details just in the internet world that you can kind of figure out what is your brand recognition without actually doing too much extra work. So I would always start there with what does your public reputation in your community look like?
And I can't begin to express how scared you should be that it's nothing. Because if you're not online, that's the biggest problem you could possibly have. So make sure that because if you're building that online presence, you can guide that conversation. If you're just letting it happen, you can't. So really important to be engaged in that. What is your reputation in the community? Or if you're hometown hero type, what's your family's reputation in the community? Obviously, we can outgrow our family's reputation, or in a lot of cases, it may not even matter. But making sure, especially if you're new to a community, maybe you've moved into somewhere, how are you going to build that brand? How are you going to build trust with a close-knit group of people that have been there maybe for just several generations? It's
very hard. I've run into a lot of agents who get frustrated because they move into a small town where everyone knows everyone, and
it can be really difficult. But being reliable, being involved, figuring out how can you get involved in that local community, what's important to that local community, whether it's the local Little League team or the annual insert crop here festival that they're all over the place. So I don't care if you got the corn parade every year or if you got the peach festival, the popcorn. Yeah. I mean, we have a bacon and bourbon festival in a neighboring town every year. There are things like that that are important to the communities. Find out where people are involved, what matters to folks. Look at maybe not your competition, but just other similarly positioned businesses in the community. What are they sponsoring? What are they being seen at? What are they being involved at? One of my friends was fortunate enough to have an opportunity to buy the local Pioneer Hybrid seed franchise a couple years ago. One of the biggest things they do for their marketing every year is they go to the county fair and they buy a ham. Every year, the kids put their hams in a contest, and whoever buys that blue ribbon ham for $300 or $400, sometimes more, gets a lot of really great not free, but really great local publicity. So it can be as simple as things like that. If the Cub Scouts knock on your door, buy a bag of popcorn. If the Girl Scouts are in the Walmart parking lot, get a couple boxes of cookies. Maybe get a couple dozen boxes of cookies and then send them out to your other referral partners. There are a lot of little creative things like that that you can do to support your community and your business at the same time.
I've even seen agents taking natural disasters that happen in the community and like stepping up in that, because that's when people really need the help and support. So if you can jump in and be like, hey, how can I help with this? That's showing like a huge effort, and people are going to remember like, oh, this person helped me with that, or this brand, if you have a whole bunch of people working for you, they came out and helped with that. So I think it's just being reliable when asked. So if someone's reaching out, if your reputation is reliability, regardless of if it's, like you said, Girl Scouts, Boy Scouts, fair, whatever direction, if you are that person that they're like, oh, I can always ask them to help or volunteer their time or be available. I think that is a balance, because we're talking about time versus money. Referrals require a lot of time, and that can take away from money. So, but being a community staple is 100% probably the most important part of referrals. The next thing we want to go into is, who do you know and where do you go?
Yeah.
That's the easiest places to figure out how to find referrals. So we always say, this is something that I talk to a lot of agents about when they're initially starting off and they're trying to figure out different marketing plans. We always talk about a 7-prong marketing system. One of those should be referrals. The easiest way to look at that is building 2 lists. One list is going to be people 55 and up that you know, that you're involved with. It can be from churches, it can be friends, it could be family, it could be different organizations you're involved in. If you're involved in book club, or I don't know, you work out and you know several people at that gym, but make a list of people 55 and older that you know that you could potentially practice your presentation on, and then make a list of organizations that you are already involved in or that you would like to be involved in.
Yeah.
And that's, having those 2 lists give you a starting point and a foundation of where you should start with referrals as well.
Absolutely. So finding ways to look at the community that you're already involved in and then expanding from there. So as you talk to these people that you know, as you go to these places that you're already involved in, start talking to those folks on your list. Who do they know? Ask for those referrals if you're in a position to do so. Actively listen, communicate while you're fact finding about the things that they spend their time on. And this is the big one for me. Don't just ask who people know, ask where they go. Where do they spend their time? What organizations are
they involved in pickleball? Do they go to a local country club? Like, what do they like doing? What are their hobbies? Maybe you should be there too.
Social involvement. If they're a member of the lions, tigers, bears, elks, moose, whatever animalistic organization that they're involved in, or if they're a member of the VFW or the American Legion, you know what the best thing about all these organizations is? They meet every month and they always need someone to come speak.
100%.
Ask people where they go, because then you're not asking them to hand over their dearest friend for you to support with a big decision. You're just asking, where and when will a group of people be gathered that I can maybe have a conversation with that can then make their own decisions about whether to work with me or not. It is a much lower social risk than asking someone, who's your best friend And will you trust me to work with them? Asking someone, hey, where do you spend time with other people? And can I go talk to all of them? And then they can make their own decision whether to work with me or not. But there's still that implied trust of bringing you into the circle, letting you have that conversation. It's lower risk for everyone involved, but you can get in front of a lot more people. I always tell folks the best client you have might refer you, 4 or 5 people in their lifetime. But if they can refer you to the local American Legion chapter where you can go speak to a group of 50, that's a big opportunity. So ask people where they go, not just who they know.
I love that. The other thing you can do is a passive way is when you are fact-finding and gathering information, asking them, well, you already know, you're asking them who their pharmacy is, who their doctors are. If you are not tracking that, that is your loss on referral partners. Because if you start going through and you're like, oh my God, half of my clients use this particular mom and pop pharmacy, I need to be working with them.
Mm-hmm.
When you go to that mom and pop pharmacy, then you can talk to them and say, I have a lot of your customers as my clients. We should work together. Yeah, obviously, no names. That's why I said I have a lot, or I have this many number if you want to do that. But having a conversation of working together and collaborating because you're already doing it, you just didn't know.
And more importantly, use that opportunity to flatter them a little bit. Hey, I've been hearing a lot of good things about your business from people I work with. I want to talk a little bit about what I do because your name keeps coming up so often that I thought I ought to know how you operate a little more.
Yeah. And we're from the show me state. So, of course, we're going to be a little bit biased in terms of, people want to be shown that you are who you are. But I think it goes deeper than just the state we live in. I think it does go back into how people trust and build trust. And, a piece of paper that I get mailed goes in the trash versus if I hear a speaker at some sort of organization that I am involved in, I can make my own decision. I think, wow, they know their stuff. I think I do want to work with them. So finding ways that you can show that you are an expert instead of requesting and asking is like game changer. The other thing is when you're saying, hey, I'm trying to find referral partners, here's who I am, here's what I do, and you already have your clients, that's showing that person that you already do a lot and you're already working with their clients. That's a show me type thing, opposed to asking and begging.
Absolutely. Now, as we start to build this opportunity, build out these systems, build out these processes, the biggest thing that you need to consider is a way to track it. We talked about how referrals can be one of your cheapest lead sources, but you need to actually know that. You need to be able to track the time and money you spend developing referrals, whether that's professional networking or whether that is individual client referrals. So tracking not just those commonality between your clients, but which clients are sending you referrals? Which networking partners are sending you referrals? How often? Is there a certain time of year that you get referrals from folks? Is it maybe something about how they run their business where they have a busy season that's off cycle with yours or that it's on cycle with yours? Maybe there are opportunities to be more engaged with some of these partners when you're not as busy during the year to set yourself up for those referrals. So looking for not just who gives you referrals, but when those are happening. Is it based on triggering life events? Is it based on, do you have a really good accountant in town and you know that every April you can expect 5 or 10 referrals from them? It's not always going to be as clear cut as that, but maybe it's just the way they run their business. Oh, I like to do my annual reviews with my clients in, June. Great. You start seeing that you get a lot of referrals from someone in June. You know that there's something there. Have a conversation about it. I really appreciate all the business you've been sending to me. I'm so glad that we can work together to take care of these clients. I'm just curious. I notice I get a lot of referrals from you in this time of year. Is there a reason for that? What are you doing in your business that is front loading or back loading or whatever it is, all of these clients? Are is that around an event? Is it that I can help sponsor, that I can speak at, that I can provide resources for? Is it around some kind of triggering event in your industry that I may not be aware of? Those are all great questions to ask, things that you can track. And if you're keeping good data on those referrals, you'll start to notice those patterns.
100%. And I think the other thing that I've run into where it's kind of a pitfall is agents not even tracking and creating your process for referrals.
Sure.
So on top of getting referrals, your job is to keep those promises to those people giving you the referrals. So what does your process look like? What are you giving those new people coming in? What does that experience look like? When do you call and reach out to them? Having that process for when you, and it may look exactly like a new client prospect, but making sure you're also tracking who sent that person. So you can also say, hey, by the way, Jalen, I just ended up talking to this person that you referred over. They spoke so highly of you, and I'm so thankful for that referral. That can go way further because maybe that's the only extra thing you add to like a prospect is like them following back up with the person that referred. And I think that's another part of the process that gets missed is thanking the people who have given you referrals, because a lot of people want to know, hey, I sent someone to you. What's the results?
Mm-hmm.
And even if it's, hey, I gave them a quick call. Thank you so much. That goes a really long way because that shows that you kept your promise. So that goes also into the tracking, not just the commonalities of your clients or who is sending you referrals, but also what does your process look like and making sure everything is consistent.
Absolutely. And just making sure that those people are being thanked regularly. If you got someone who's sending you a lot of referrals every year, there's nothing wrong with sending them a note or an email or a call on a regular basis just to continue to thank them for that appreciation. And while in my opinion, you should never build a referral relationship that is on a one for one or a tit for tat basis where
We're not a
you're
refer.
trading the referrals, you should definitely make sure that you do keep cognizant of the fact that they would also appreciate business. And it may not be, if you're a Medicare agent, it may not be your clients that are the best referral for somebody, but like everyone else, other people who aren't your clients. So think about your family, your friends, and the services that
That's a really good point because we were actually talking to a group of people who do annuities.
Sure.
And they said that factoring a couple fact finders in, even if you were writing like the fixed annuity, you could fact find for a variable. Even if you're like writing annuities, you can still refer people to someone who does write annuities and is a financial planner. So like asking them what fact finding questions would help benefit them in that case, or maybe it's a PNC agent, maybe there's little subtle things that you can add into your business. And then you're like, oh my gosh, by the way, you might qualify for something like this. I can't write it, but this person that I know can, and sending them over that direction, or even just hearing them like talk about their house or their car insurance or whatever the direction is. Is there something you can factor into your fact finding or that keywords you can listen to that may be a good indication to go to that referral partner too?
Absolutely. Absolutely. And I think, as we look at those networking partners, make sure that you're keeping compliance in mind. Obviously, want to be HIPAA compliant. Don't, like we said, everyone wants to know, how did it go? How did that referral end up? Did you get them taken care of? Obviously, of course, great to say, yes, we had a wonderful conversation. I think we'll be able to help them. Don't share what plan you put someone on. Don't share information like that. Private medical data, of course, stay HIPAA compliant. And then also, the biggest failure agents have, in my experience with them, is not making the process of that referral easy and clear. Understanding that your financial advisor buddy or the PNC agent down the road or the local pharmacy can't call you up and say, hey, I think Mrs. Jones needs help. Here's her phone number. Give her a call. You've got to have valid permission to contact. So setting expectations for how that referral works, understanding that someone needs to call you, or you need to have valid permission to contact. And there's no reason that you can't leave some permission to contact forms with one of those referral partners and get it filled out by someone who needs your assistance. That's totally okay. But making sure that you are keeping compliance in mind, because you're wanting to set that high standard for how you run your business. You're wanting to make sure that you're staying on the right side of the rules and
I
regs.
think it's a very good point too. If you're not creating what the next step is and what their action plan is with the referral partner, then you've skipped a step. So what are you bringing with you? Is it a permission to contact form, or is it a resource that has all your contact information on it?
Sure.
We've had a lot of agents handing out what the new drug plans are going to look like in 2025, the Inflation Reduction Act changes. We've had some people handing out medication trackers that are resources. Sometimes it's a quarterly newsletter. There's so many different directions you can go, but like, what is the action plan? How does that person give your information to that referral? Or what is the next step? Are you hosting an event that they can help refer people to? Like, I think leaving with a follow-up of like, what is the next step? I think you created a great point of how does that person actually refer people to you? And let's make it easy.
Make it easy and make it clear. Just saying, hey, if you find anyone who needs help with their Medicare, that's not going to generate a lot of referrals.
Right.
But if you're sitting down and your local pharmacist and say, hey, if you've got clients that seem to be struggling paying for their medications, feel free to pass along my information. Can I hang this flyer up in your lobby away from the point of care, not at the pharmacy counter? Or if you're talking to your financial advisor and say, hey, when you run across clients that are paying an IRMA penalty, you might mention to them that there's some things I can do as a Medicare agent to help with that. Here's a couple of my business cards, a permission to contact, whatever information.
You're giving them nice little things to hear, things to ask, little nuggets that they can be listening to. Same as what we had already said of talking to your referral partners to see what can you listen to that would help them. I think coming to them with little things that they could be listening or asking that can then turn into a referral for you.
Absolutely. So as we look at all of these different aspects of generating referrals, maintaining referral relationships, it's really clear that these can take some work, that can take some setup, but it can build those lifelong relationships, build colleagues in business that are invested in your growth, that you can invest in their growth financially, emotionally, with your time, and it can create a community that supports these local small businesses. So while we look at referrals as a great way to grow your business, it's also a great way to grow in your community and grow as a member of that local community. So don't think of it just as a business play. Think of it as a life play. Generating referrals does a lot to help improve and maintain your reputation in the community, in addition to being one of the top ways to generate new business. So with that, keep asking more people who they know and where they go. Find ways to make it easy for someone to send you a piece of business and let them know which words or phrases they should look for to find a good prospect for you. And with that, we'll see you on the next episode.